Welcome back to The Deep Dive. I'm Lex.
And I'm Vera. Hello, everyone.
We're part of the C9 podcast show team, and today, we're doing a deep dive specifically for you, the Australian business owners and C-level executives in our audience.
That's right. We've gathered some pretty crucial research today. It's focused entirely on what might be the single biggest limiter to your company's growth and agility here in Australia.
We're talking about legacy systems.
Exactly. The insidious persistence of those old systems.
So here's the mission today. If you're a leader, maybe you're watching competitors launch innovative services almost instantly, while your own teams, they seem bogged down.
Or perhaps you're just not hitting those growth targets.
Yeah, exactly. The research we've looked at points a very sharp finger directly at your internal IT infrastructure, those legacy systems.
And look, this isn't just some minor operational drag. It's much more serious. These outdated systems, they're actively creating fragmented data environments. They stifle collaboration.
And the costs.
Critically, yes. The data shows these systems can inflate your expenses by, get this, up to 30% of your entire IT budget.
30%. Wow, that's an astronomical figure.
Yeah.
To put that drain into perspective, what is that budget actually paying for? Is it just licensing, security patches?
Well, it's really a kind of death spiral of complexity and maintenance. That 30%, it's paying for really high maintenance overhead. Why? Because you need expensive specialists.
Right. People who actually understand systems built maybe 15, 20 years ago, they're getting scarce.
Precisely. And expensive. It's also paying for the fragility of all those custom integrations. Patchwork fixes that constantly break down, the ones trying to connect old, isolated software.
Okay, I see. And the risk exposure, that must be part of it too.
That's often the most expensive cost of all, even if it's hidden sometimes. Legacy environments are, frankly, massive security liabilities, meaning they expose the entire organization to breaches that can cost millions in remediation, not to mention potentially severe penalties under Australian privacy regulations. It's a huge strategic liability. You just can't ignore it anymore.
And looking at the bigger picture, the market scale, Australian IT spending is projected to soar past $872 billion.
That's billion with a B.
So if you're still relying on that archaic infrastructure, you are, let's be honest, willingly falling behind. The data suggests 80% of Australian businesses are already migrating or planning to migrate to the cloud by 2026.
80%.
Yeah.
That's a huge majority. Failure to act now, it really means missing out on some vast competitive advantages enabled by true modernization.
And this transformation, it's tied directly to broader economic growth too, isn't it?
Absolutely. The public cloud sector alone, for example, is projected to create something like 596,750 new jobs. Clinging to the past effectively locks you out of that growth cycle.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty stark picture of the problem. Let's pivot to the remedy. The solution isn't just, lifting and shifting old software onto a virtual server somewhere.
No, not at all. The real strategic shift we're talking about is cloud-native development.
We've established that severe financial drain, that 30% overhead. But I want to push back a bit on the savings figures sometimes quoted for cloud adoption. You often hear 30 or even 40% savings. Frankly, that can sound a bit optimistic sometimes. Where do executives typically fail to actually realize those promised savings?
Yeah, that's a fair point. The failure usually comes when they don't fundamentally change how they build and run their applications. If they just do that lift and shift, we mentioned moving the old legacy software as is to the cloud, well, they just carry all that technical debt and inefficiency with them.
So they're paying cloud prices for legacy problems.
Exactly. The true savings, the kind of 30–40% figures, they come from adopting a proper cloud-native architectural model.
Okay, that's a powerful distinction. This model, it moves away from those massive, upfront fixed investments in hardware and infrastructure, right?
Correct. Instead, it leverages a pay-as-you-go model. It's about cost-effective scalability.
Meaning competitors using this aren't just faster, they are structurally cheaper to operate. They use exactly the resources they need, only when they need them.
Precisely. They are leveraging the inherent architecture of the cloud, not just using it as a remote data center.
So let's unpack that. If an executive listening isn't deeply technical, how can we help them visualize cloud native? We've said it's about building for the cloud, not just on the cloud. What are the key components our sources define? Let's say the 4 critical pillars.
Okay, we can break it down pretty simply. First, instead of one massive monolithic system, think like a giant old cruise ship, where if one part breaks, the whole ship is in trouble. We use what's called the microservices architecture. Think of it more like replacing that single cruise ship with a fleet of smaller, specialized boats. Each boat or microservice handles just one function, like payments or user accounts or inventory.
Okay, smaller, independent units. Why is that critical for agility?
Because if one boat, one microservice, needs fixing, or maybe it needs to handle a sudden surge in traffic, the rest of the fleet just keeps sailing. They can scale independently.
Ah, so you update or scale just the bit you need to.
Exactly. It maximizes agility and resilience. You can update individual components without risking crashing the entire system.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, component number one, microservices. What's next?
That brings us neatly to containerization, using technologies like Docker or maybe Kubernetes for orchestration. If microservices are the specialized boats, you can think of containers as the uniform, standardized shipping containers that hold them.
Like on a cargo ship.
Precisely. They package the application code along with all its dependencies, things like the operating system libraries it needs to run. This ensures consistent, predictable behavior everywhere.
So it runs the same on a developer's laptop as it does in the live production cloud environment?
That's the goal. Consistency and much more efficient resource use.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay, number three.
Third is automation and DevOps. This is really all about accelerating delivery and improving reliability. Think automated testing, automated infrastructure provisioning.
Taking the human error out of repetitive tasks.
Largely, yes. It drastically reduces those errors and, crucially, speeds up the deployment of new features. We're talking about potentially accelerating delivery cycles from months down to weeks, days, or even minutes in some cases.
Wow. Okay, and finally, you mentioned data silos earlier, those isolated pockets of information caused by legacy systems. What's the structural antidote in the cloud-native world?
That would be API-first design. API stands for Application Programming Interface. Essentially, we use well-defined, robust APIs as the primary way systems communicate with each other.
So instead of clunky custom integrations.
Right. You treat the API itself as a core product. This ensures seamless integration between all your services, new and old, and helps tear down those proprietary data walls that stifle collaboration and insight.
Okay, so microservices, containerization, automation, DevOps, and API-first design. That's the technical foundation. Now, translate that for the C-level executive. What do they get out of this immediately? Beyond that dramatic cost reduction, the 30 to 40% we talked about, what's the big strategic win?
Speed and responsiveness, fundamentally. You gain really unprecedented agility, the ability to deploy new features rapidly, to test market hypotheses quickly with real users, to pivot your strategy based on real-time data.
All without being constrained by slow, fixed infrastructure deployment cycles.
Exactly. You're much more adaptable.
Plus, in today's business environment, we absolutely cannot forget the need for secure, flexible operations, right? Especially with remote and hybrid work.
Absolutely critical. And cloud-native architecture inherently supports hybrid work. It's designed to enable secure, optimized access from virtually any location, which is pretty much non-negotiable for productivity in, say, 2026 and beyond. And as we look ahead towards 2026, this cloud landscape, it just keeps evolving. We're seeing, I'd say, three key currents that Australian enterprises really must be watching.
Okay, what are those strategic trends shaping cloud investment right now?
Well, first, there's the rise of AI-native platforms. Now, this isn't just about, bolting an AI feature onto an existing app.
It's deeper than that.
Much deeper. It's embedding advanced AI and machine learning capabilities directly into the core platform itself. This gives you powerful analytics and intelligent features without necessarily needing large, specialized internal data science teams for every single project.
Interesting. Okay, AI native. What else? I assume vendor lock-in is still a major concern for large organizations.
Oh, absolutely. It always is. And that's precisely why we see such a strong continuing trend toward multi-cloud strategies.
Meaning using different cloud providers for different things.
Exactly. Executives are strategically leveraging the specific strengths of different providers, maybe Google Cloud for its AI tools, AWS for raw compute power, perhaps Azure for its enterprise integrations, partly to optimize performance and cost, but also crucially to minimize reliance on any single vendor. Avoid putting all eggs in one basket.
Makes sense. And the third trend, I feel like this is entering almost every boardroom conversation now. Sustainability.
That's right. ESG reporting, corporate responsibility, it's huge. And the sheer scale of the major cloud providers allows for far better energy efficiency compared to maintaining individual enterprise data centers. So moving to the cloud can genuinely support environmental objectives, often while also driving down operational costs. It's a win-win.
Okay, so AI native, multi-cloud, sustainability. The pressure to capitalize on these trends is immense, isn't it? Which probably drives some executives to seek speed above all else.
It does. And this introduces a massive strategic risk. It's something our sources really highlight. Beware the rise of the AI cowboys.
AI cowboys, explain that.
Well, if you're desperately looking for that instant, cheap fix to modernize or build something new, you will encounter providers, maybe freelancers or even some agencies, who are heavily pushing AI app builders. They might promote what's sometimes cynically called vibes coding.
Vibes coding.
Yeah, basically using vague prompts fed into an AI to generate large chunks of code, promising incredibly fast results with minimal human oversight.
Okay, I can see the appeal speed, low upfront cost. But this shortcut,
Yep.
it sounds like it creates some deep hidden dangers. Essentially swapping short-term perceived savings for maybe terminal technical debt down the road.
That's exactly the risk. And the primary danger, security vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
AI-generated code, especially without rigorous expert review, frequently omits critical, absolutely mandatory security measures. Things like robust input validation to prevent injection attacks, secure authentication flows, proper data encryption both in transit and at rest. Omitting these leaves the organization wide open to potentially devastating breaches and, again, severe regulatory penalties under Australian privacy laws.
Okay, huge security risk. What happens when you inevitably need to change or update that AI-generated code later on?
Maintainability just collapses. Code generated without meticulous human architectural oversight often completely lacks coherence. It might work initially for a simple case, but it's often spaghetti code. Developers later might spend exponential time and money simply trying to decipher the flawed or undocumented logic before they can even start implementing a necessary new feature or fix.
So future development grinds to a halt or becomes incredibly expensive.
Precisely. And finally, there are the scalability limitations. That cheap, quick app might handle, say, 100 test users perfectly fine. But the moment customer adoption actually grows, which is usually the whole point, right? It often fails catastrophically.
Yeah.
Why? Because the foundational architecture required for reliable scaling under load was simply never built down. It wasn't designed for success.
Okay, so the danger posed by these AI cowboys really proves a crucial point. Sound architecture and precision in planning and pricing, not just raw speed, have to be the priority for any serious modernization effort.
Absolutely. This is where genuine human expertise and a clear partnership strategy become completely non-negotiable.
You can't just prompt your way to a robust enterprise application.
No. Effective modernization demands that every application is properly architected, rigorously reviewed, and carefully refined by experienced professionals. Now, modern development absolutely leverages AI tools. They're fantastic for enhancing developer productivity, automating tests, suggesting code snippets.
But they're tools, not replacements for strategic thinking.
Exactly. The strategic thinking, the architectural design, the security hardening that must remain human-led.
And a key best practice we often hear demanded now by executive teams is strong knowledge transfer. They don't just want a black box delivered. They don't want to build long-term dependency on an external vendor. They want to build their own internal capability over time.
That's a very smart approach.
Mm-hmm.
Comprehensive knowledge transfer delivered via detailed documentation, architectural diagrams, and structured training sessions for your internal teams is absolutely vital.
Why vital?
Because it means you gain the ability to support, maintain, and enhance the system yourselves. It allows you to ultimately achieve independence from your development partner over the long term, if that's your goal. It's about empowerment, not just delivery.
Okay. And we also need to talk about the practical economics of actually getting this work done. The sources we reviewed highlight the blended hybrid offshore and onshore model as potentially offering a key competitive advantage.
Yes, that model can be very effective. It aims to provide significant cost savings, potentially up to 40% compared to purely onshore teams by leveraging global talent pools.
While crucially maintaining that essential local Australian presence for accountability, project management, and understanding the specific nuances of the Australian market.
Correct. You get the cost benefits alongside local partnership. But all this complex layered expertise, it needs a clear, definitive starting point,
Which is?
the discovery call, or perhaps a short series of discovery workshops. Skipping this step, which executives are often tempted to do to save time up front, well, it's probably the single most common cause of budget overruns, timeline delays, and painful scope disputes later on down the track.
Right, trying to build without a proper blueprint. Discovery is essential for translating that initial ambiguity, that maybe vague business need, into a concrete strategic roadmap. What's the typical time investment required for this crucial first step? Is it huge?
Actually, it's surprisingly small relative to the overall project. Typically, it might be just 3 to 5 hours of key stakeholders' time, maybe spread across a couple of sessions.
That's it.
Often, yes, for an initial discovery phase. But this small upfront investment prevents problems that will almost certainly cost exponentially more in both time and money later in the project lifecycle. It de-risks the entire engagement.
Okay, let's talk about the math for a second, because this is really where the C-level conversation often centers. Executives frequently ask for, indicative pricing or a ballpark figure very early on.
They do, but pricing based on broad assumptions before the scope is properly defined, it can be wildly inaccurate. We're talking plus or minus 50% or even worse. It makes realistic budgeting practically impossible.
It's just a guess, really.
Pretty much.
Huh.
Discovery-based pricing completely flips this dynamic. Because you invest that short time up front to define the scope clearly, it allows for much more precise estimation. You can refine estimates down to the nearest, say, 5 or 10 hours for specific components.
So you get a granular breakdown, like 40 hours estimated for the user authentication module, 80 hours for the CRM integration, that sort of thing.
Exactly, that level of detail.
And what level of accuracy can that kind of precision achieve for the overall project estimate?
Done properly, it can achieve plus or minus 10 to 15% accuracy, sometimes even tighter for well-defined modules. This level of financial rigor is what allows businesses to make defensible, validated investment decisions. You know what you're committing to.
And I guess that precision also allows businesses to break down complex, potentially expensive projects into more manageable, risk-mitigated phases.
Absolutely. You can define, say, a phase 1 MVP, the minimum viable product, to get core functionality out quickly and start getting user feedback or ROI, then plan a phase 2 for enhancements, phase 3 for further integrations, and so on.
So it transforms a potentially huge, scary, monolithic commitment into a series of incremental, validated investments, much easier to manage and justify.
Precisely. Early ROI, reduced risk, and continuous validation. #outro. So when you boil it all down, the choice for Australian businesses heading towards 2026 seems pretty unambiguous. You can embrace cloud-native architecture to unlock agility and achieve really substantial savings. Again, we're often talking 30 to 40% cost reductions.
Cool.
Or you watch your legacy systems continue to drag you down, ensuring you fall further and further behind more agile competitors.
So if you are ready to break free, to revolutionize your operations and finally move away from those expensive, fragile, insecure legacy systems, the crucial first step is clear.
Book a discovery call.
Exactly. We strongly encourage you to visit www.c9.com.au right now. Take a look. C9 is Australia's leading custom software, apps, integration, and database developer company. They specialize in providing precisely the expertise, the precision, and the partnership approach required to help you secure your competitive edge in this changing landscape.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As you plan your modernization journey, please remember that true, lasting transformation isn't just about adopting the latest technology. It's also critically about building your own internal capability for long-term resilience and independence. Don't let those old legacy system constraints continue to define your competitive ceiling.
That is the ultimate strategic takeaway, isn't it? Building for the future, not just replacing the past. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today.
Thank you.
Don't forget to click that follow button wherever you're listening, and please do share this deep dive with any colleague, fellow executive, or business owner who you think could benefit from this crucial knowledge. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.